Okay. All right. I think I figured it out. So can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, 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 hello. So I'm gonna text you the link on Messenger or
Yeah.
you want it on Facebook Messenger?
No, I got it. I just emailed it to myself.
Are you able to hear me? Hello? Are you able to hear me? Question mark. One, two, three. Can you hear me?
One second. Hear you. Hold on a second. Morning. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay,
Can you hear
perfect.
me?
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay. So I think the link that was on my calendar was from the previous week, but that's okay. I
Yeah.
just went to the
No, thank you. I'm sorry for that.
that's all right.
I'll just check with my VA, but anyway, just having some maybe third world issue thing, right? Like my computer wanted to just act slow this morning.
Yeah.
So yeah. So we'll just take 5-10 minutes of chit chat because we're meeting for the
Sure.
first time. And then we'll just get started. I was reading your bio, like you are like big into seller financing, right?
Hmm.
So tell me more about a little bit about it so I can ask you like relevant and specific questions.
Yeah, so it depends. I am very proficient purchasing with seller financing,
Mhm.
and if people want to learn about that, that's a lot of what I do.
Sure.
I also dispo or sell on owner financing. Now, I reverse engineer the process a little bit. I own, it's not a mortgage company, it's a real estate investing firm, but what we do is we begin with the end buyer. We make a determination of the real world ability to repay. Then we raise the necessary capital so that they can purchase any home off the MLS.
Yeah.
So we buy it and then owner finance it to them.
So, like, can you discuss a little bit like how do you structure it? Like, what is the mindset?
Of the buyer, of the investor, of myself,
For
of
yourself,
who.
like how do you structure it as a owner financing? You saying you buying property and then you just structure it as a owner financing and then you sell it, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, a
yeah,
little bit like like if you
sure. Yeah, so when we dispo, obviously we already have the underwriting on the asset. We know what the home is worth. We know what the fair market value on that is. Um, when we underwrite the buyer, we generally look for a 20% total initial investment. Um, we like for the credit to be over 620. It doesn't always have to be. If it's not, we'll still do it. We might just ask them for a little bit more money up front. We are MLO all of our deals to make sure that we have an independent underwriter. We close at a title company. We use a third-party note servicing company. Yeah, so we really kind of structure it in a way in which it's very, very hands-off. We raise our private capital. These are just doctors, attorneys, individual folks who want to put their money to work on something that's a little bit more predictable. And basically, that's the money that we use to buy it, and then we turn around and owner finance it to the final buyer.
So what's your typical return on investment look like?
So we generally borrow at about 6.25. We owner finance about 10.25. So about a 4% spread.
Okay, got it. And what asset class you try to go after?
Site built, single family, owner occupied, between 200,000 and 2 million, in Texas only. So it generally, our bread and butter tends to be in the $400,000 to $600,000 range.
Okay. So if it is owner occupied, like, is it more of a refinance thing, like the HELOC thing?
No.
So,
What do you mean?
like, maybe I just want to clarify, is like, if
Sure.
the owner is already living and he's selling the house, or why would he buy it from you?
Because he wants to buy a house. I'm not a mortgage company, but think of me like Wells Fargo
Mhm.
for owner occupant buyers.
So if, like, let's say I have a $500,000 house, so am I looking for another house, or like I'm just trying to get the equity out of my existing?
So I think we're confusing things a little bit. Whenever I'm talking to sellers,
Mhm.
they're just sellers.
Oh, okay,
Yeah. And I can buy on cash or I can buy on terms.
understand.
So that's the acquisition side. What I was talking earlier was a lending side where somebody wants to buy a home with owner financing.
Okay, understand.
So it's a little bit, and I know it's a little bit confusing because it's kind of the same phrase, seller financing, owner financing.
Mhm.
But one is the acquisition, I'm buying. The second one is I'm lending.
Understand. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know what exactly you do, so
No,
apologize.
it's okay. It's a very niche. It's very it is a little bit confusing, and I apologize for not, coming in a little bit earlier to kind of get to know each other
Yeah, exactly.
a
So,
little bit.
at least I don't want to ask you, like, like stupid questions in the middle of interview. I would.
No, that's not. We'll have a good time. That's not a
So,
concern.
uh,
A little bit about my background. I've been in real estate since 2017. And over the years, I've become, a national speaker on the subject, both of purchasing with seller financing as well as disposition with owner financing. So I'm very familiar. I've probably been in maybe 100 different podcasts. I've probably spoken in stages of 6, 7, 8, 9,000 people at a time, including lots of boards of real estate agents in San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston. So I'm okay with questions. That's not a problem.
nice. I think people are already joining in, so let's get started. We'll just count to 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this morning. And we have Dan in the house, and he is the guru for seller financing and real estate in general. He has been very well known in the real estate community for being a speaker, subject to creative financing, primarily focused, but he has a deep experience in real estate. So we will be discussing, a lot about it, but the theme of the topic is, passive investing and how to retire rich. So we'll be asking relevant questions about that, how real estate help you to get financial independence, because this is what this show is all about, is helping people learn how financial independence is important. Either you invest passively or you start doing active investment. But there's a journey that everybody takes, like including myself. When I started, I didn't know nothing, like maybe limited money, and so we want to learn from those journey, like those successful journey, and pass on some important messages. So let's start with, you, Dan. Like if you can introduce yourself and, we can go from there.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Dan Diaz. I was originally born in Mexico City, raised in San Antonio, Texas. So I like to say I'm, born and raised in San Antonio. That's really what I know as my hometown. I love it here. If you've never been here, come on down. It's a great, great town to visit. It's a great town to invest in. And overall, Texas, I think, is a really, really great state. By way of introduction, a little bit about myself. I began my real estate investing career in November of 2015, actually, 2015. And I didn't know anything, really about what I was doing. I didn't know the terminology. I didn't know the processes. All I knew is that I had encountered a situation where a lady had a home that had no equity. She couldn't sell it off on the market. And I knew that there was an opportunity both to help her and also to purchase the property. Little did I know that that was called subject to property acquisition. At the time, I just thought of it as, hey, you got a problem. You can't afford the monthly payment. I got a solution. I can afford the monthly payment for you. Let me go ahead and buy it. And I figure that I can probably get someone else to pay me a little bit more per month, as well as the down payment in order to buy it from me. So I didn't know a lot of the terminology, but I knew that there was an opportunity to help someone and learn a little bit about the process. So I did went ahead and purchased the property and kind of helped her out. That was a subject to property acquisition. I basically took over the mortgage. I didn't know that was the name. And there was a lot of lessons there. I'm happy to share those, but it was a great deal. It took me about 9 months to dispo. And there's a reason it kind of took me that long, because I bought in an area where you shouldn't buy, and I bought an asset that you shouldn't be buying as an asset. But again, you don't know what you don't know. At the end of the day, it did generate me a little over $80,000 in upfront profit, and it's generating about a $400 monthly spread, and it'll continue for the next 30 years. So that was kind of it was the first deal, and it was the catalyst to really pique my interest into the world of owner financing. So that's a little bit about my background.
Nice. So, like, just help us explain, when you achieve your financial independence, what it means to you, and how do you interpret or help somebody else achieve the importance of financial independence in this world, like where everybody's trying to sell a loan, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. So the mathematical equation that I ask and I require my students to do is this: how much money, and it's just a reverse engineering, how much money do you need per month to take care of your bills? That's the first step. We're not talking about wealth yet. Just how much money do you need per month to take care of your bills? So let's say the answer is maybe 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. Those are common numbers. We go ahead and break it down. Okay, so if you need $4,000 per month to take care of your bills, to take care of your monthly expenses, once you find a vehicle that pays you those $4,000 per month passively, then congratulations, you're retired. You've achieved financial freedom. You might have not acquired wealth at this point, and it's okay. That's step number 2 or 3. But you can effectively say, I now have a vehicle that brings in the necessary money each and every month to take care of my expenses. Therefore, I am now retired. Now, the beautiful part about looking at things from that perspective is that you can retire in maybe a year or 2. It doesn't take you 40 years to retire. Now, once you've achieved that step, then we can talk about, hey, let's talk about increasing our life quality. Maybe you want to include better dining. Maybe you want to include a bigger house. Maybe you want to include more vacation time. Maybe you want to include a nicer school for your children. It's just a matter of an equation. Hey, I want to start spending $2,000 more per month, $3,000 more per month. Well, let's go buy or acquire the vehicle, the asset that pays me that each and every month. And then you just gave yourself a raise. So that's the beautiful part about looking at things from that perspective. It's no longer contingent on time. You know, we don't have to wait 40 years. It's now just contingent on income. Find the vehicle that pays you that per month.
Got it. Very nice. So,
And to me, I did it in about a year and a half. Now, ironically, I unretired myself because after that, I'm like, oh man, I can enjoy some fun things in life, but they cost money. So it's like, okay, let me go buy another vehicle that pays me this per month so that I can, you know, enjoy these things.
yeah. Yeah, you see, like, life is always like on the go kind of thing, right? So I still remember like the first investment I did was a passive investment. I just did like invested $100,000 on the people that I don't even know, right? I just met them like a couple of weeks ago, but that was my first rodeo where I just wanted to get started. Like, I was hated being a sideline. So I was so desperate that I just invested, and like, frankly, it turned out to be good, but there were some
Good.
definite learning lessons that I learned. And, but the horror story was there, like that deal had a 42 GPs.
So it was multifamily for you.
Yeah, multifamily, but like working with 42.
That's a lot of people.
That was a lot of people. Yeah.
There were a lot of hands in that cookie jar.
Yeah. And I realized that only after getting in. Right. So what they did was like they made a group of like 5 or 6 main people, and then they had like, subgroups within that group, like 6 people had 6 more people inside kind of thing, which you will only find out once you get in.
Yeah. So that's a little bit different. I'm glad you shared that with me. That's a little bit different between a multifamily asset class and a site-built single-family class. With a single-family class at AS, you can't have one person funding it. I mean, unless, Bill Gates or something, for the most part, you have to, it's a team sport. You have to, put your team together. When it comes to the single-family space, all of our private investors, it's one person, one loan, one asset, one lien. So they fund the entire project. If they can't fund that project, hey, no harm, no foul. Maybe we'll look for a different project that works for them. But it's one lender, one investor, one lien, one loan, one class, one house. So there is. If you didn't like playing with 42 people, maybe you would have enjoyed playing with me because you would have been the only one. And then maybe you would have said, well, this is kind of lonely. I'm all by myself. So, there's pros and cons.
Yeah. Like, see, the good thing is you can learn from 42 people, right? Because now you have access. And that I think that was my mindset, was I'm paying for the learning, because when I pay that money, I will really get a chance to look at the blue books very closely, because nobody's going to open the books to, somebody outsider, right?
Sure.
So I get to open, like, had a close look of the books and pick up some of the brains that were involved in the deals, right? And I had a good experience. So I think that my money was worth right there. Whatever I got was bonus on the top.
Yeah. That's a great way to look at it. Yeah, there's pros and cons everywhere for sure.
Yeah. So another thing we definitely want to talk about is, since you also take investors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we want to help, like, through this channel is a passive investors to know that there are opportunities out there like you or multifamily, right? So we want to definitely, keep eyes and ears open for other asset class, which generates more secure return, or, because every person has a different need. Somebody retired. I had a gentleman, he had a 5.5 million 1031 that he wanted to dump, and one had to do TIC. Like, normally if you do 1031, you have to do TIC, but he was 85-year old. He said, like, I don't care about depreciation.
Interesting.
Because I'm 85-year-old, so I qualify for a lot of things that doesn't make sense to me. So it's like, okay, we can just take you as so what we did was we give him a pref of 12%. And we didn't have to do like partnership with him. And we bought him out in 3 years, and everybody was happy.
So it really was just more of a loan structure. It was a debt structure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Because what he was looking for at that point was like his expense was $15,000 a month, and he had a recent stroke. So what he said, like, no matter what, I want to make sure that my wife is taken care of, and I want to make sure $50,000 a month income being generated from this.
That's a beautiful perspective. And the math is what I like to call a planet Earth math. You know, it's not like he's trying to get $50,000 from $100,000. You know, it's very reasonable. Those are great examples. Yeah, yeah. So with us, the avatar of our investor is generally individuals who are somewhere between 45 and 55, 60 years old. They've probably already put together $2, $3, $4, $5 million, very similar to perhaps you. They are not, or to your example, they are not so much focused on growth anymore as they are focused on predictability, safety, which I know that's a bad word in our industry, but a certain amount of securitization and predictable return. And that's really what they kind of get with us, because with us, they're not commingling their funds with anyone else. Like I said, it's one lender, one loan, one lien, one house, one asset. And they know exactly where their money's at. It's a predictable rate of return because it's debt-based, so they get interest money. Right now, our investors are getting about 6.5%, 6.75%, 7%, more or less, which I know is not sexy sounding, but because of the predictability and where they are in their life, and where they want to be, really, they just don't want to lose their shorts, and they want to make sure that it's secure, and a first lien position in valuable Texas real estate. I mean, it's really, really hard to beat. My pitch is generally very simple. Hey, let's take a look at your 401k performance over the last 20 years. There's a good chance I might be able to beat it. Maybe I won't, but I can definitely improve the asset class. If your money right now is in the volatility of Wall Street and the stock market, likely you've seen ups and downs. You've really enjoyed the ups. You've wanted to die during the downs. Well, let's level that off to give you predictable rates of return on something that you can touch. I mean, the asset is insured. So that's the avatar of our typical investors. They're looking for long-term returns. They're looking for very something they won't have to touch for years to come, and something that they know exactly how much. So for example, your example would be a great example where, yeah, we can structure it so that you get exactly this, per month. So it works really well for them.
Nice. So, that's the whole point of, this podcast is like introduce different vehicles and, get to know people aware, because when I enter into multifamily, the only thing I knew was multifamily, right? But then lately the market is getting saturated, and I have a, kind of thing from my high school is like, if everybody's doing, I don't want to do it. So for that reason, I started.
You don't like competition.
Yeah.
I love it.
So it's just my mentality. Like if like the moment everybody's doing, I don't want to do it. It doesn't matter how sexy it is. I just don't want to do it. So I started like exploring. Even we recently are getting into note market, like similar to what you're doing, but we are just like transferring notes, basically non-performing notes. We buy it, we restructure it, and then we want to sell it to investor.
So you go ahead and purchase it non-performing. You go ahead and either foreclose on it or make it perform once again. And then once it's performing, you go ahead and sell it to somebody who's looking for something passive. Yeah, that's a great opportunity. I mean, it's a great opportunity as well.
So initially we try to restructure it, because usually like if it is non-performing, like they're having financial burden, right? So we just go talk to the owner, see what he's struggling. A lot of times they need like maybe $2 million for renovation. So like, what will make you happy, or what will make you survive is the question that we ask to the owner, right? And if it is an owner operator property, like there is a very high chance that they do not want to let it go. They will do everything and anything possible to have that property. So it's just a matter of giving them maybe a break for 6 months or a year of payment, or you have to structure it in a way that, okay, if you cannot afford $10,000 a month, how much can you afford?
Where are you? Is there a particular market in the country that you prefer?
So we are starting with Texas, and primarily
welcome.
Well, I live in Dallas, and
Oh,
Dallas,
that's right.
I
Yeah.
know always. So the first asset class we are going after is the hotels for now,
Mm,
because the numbers and everything makes sense to me so far. But yeah, so that's what we are going after. We haven't, I'm still looking actively, looking at the numbers for single family, multifamily deals, because there's a lot of bridge loans that is getting, due and paying, but that's still something, I'm stay away. But
yeah.
hotels are generally good because their cash flow is way higher. And if I can analyze the, like couple of
Well, that
years.
was that was going to be one of my questions. I know that cash flow is much higher in the hospitality industry. Why would their notes be non-performing? I guess my question is, you have so much cash flow coming in. Why are you not paying your mortgage?
So
From
one,
your experience, I mean,
yeah,
obviously you've
one
seen
simple
different things.
example is so there was a DoubleTree hotel here in Dallas.
Mhm.
It's a $20 million hotel. So when in Texas we have like blizzards, right? So in 2020, I think 2020 was the bad one, right? Or 19.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2020, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, 2020 was the one, like the bad one, plus the COVID.
Yeah.
So what happened with this gentleman is like he's owning this $20 million DoubleTree, and the pipes burst February. So he had
Mm.
like a good size damage in his property on the top of COVID. His property was technically closed like almost 2 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
His numbers are down.
So there was no cash flow during those 2
Yeah,
years.
yeah. So he was just feeling the pain of paying the property taxes, because you still have to pay property taxes of $20 million, right? And like by end of 2020 and starting 2021, so we bought it like I think starting of 2021. By that time he had enough time and he tried everything that was possible to salvage the deal, and then it was just becoming like kind of non had to go in and buy it. We bought it for like 30% discount. So he basically needed like $2 more million to fix it. And then we just gave him a 6 months of break, and then he started paying again.
Very nice. Very nice. So really you kept the same borrower in place.
Yes.
And I would hope he gives you free hotel rooms for the rest of your life.
Well, at least he will remember me for his rest of the life. That's I think that is a good reward.
You got to throw that in the contract. Come on. Loan modification includes free hotel rooms for me for the rest of your life.
If he doesn't, then like he knows that there was a point I could have just foreclosed his property. If I didn't, then there was a reason for it, right?
Yeah, for sure. That's a totally different asset class. I am not proficient in anything beyond site built single family. Yeah, I can kind of understand, especially if it's like the small, 16 or under multifamily, small asset. I can get glimpses, but I'm not confident, into these big, huge deals. I am a firm believer in that the riches are in the niches. I understand site built single family. I can move them. I understand them. We're not huge, right now we're sitting on a little over 52 million in notes. We kind of just truck along. We do about $1.5 million, 2 million every 4 weeks, which is only like 4 or 5 deals a month. It's not huge, it's not huge, but I'm very confident in the niche, that we have. I'm very conservative on my underwriting, and, knock on wood, we haven't had a single foreclosure. We've had a couple of deeds in lieu, and we have had to restructure, a couple here and there, but we haven't had a single foreclosure. So I'm happy.
Nice.
I'm real happy.
So are you like going all over, like, including Dallas, Austin?
All over Texas, Texas. Yeah. Obviously we prefer the larger cities, San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston. But we do everything from 200,000 to 2 million, and 2 million is not like, I'm not capped there mentally. I'm just telling you the largest one we have. So we kind of stay within that range. 80% of our deals are in the $400,000 to $600,000 range, and they're just nice homes in nice neighborhoods. if I have to foreclose and I get stuck with them, I don't mind.
Yeah.
I mean, these are beautiful homes.
Got it. Okay. So another important question that we all want to know is like your mistakes and learning.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm happy to share those. So when it comes to mistakes, let's go back to the first deal, because although it sounds really sexy, hey, I made $80,000 in upfront profit and a $400 monthly spread, there were a lot of mistakes. And I can summarize the mistakes in probably doing something that most people don't do. Most people overlearn, overthink, and don't act. I'm a little bit different. I overact and then I figure things out. And there are some mistakes that I made from there. One of the mistakes that I did was not doing enough due diligence on the actual asset that I was buying. I was buying a double wide mobile home on 10 acres in Elmendorf, Texas. And if you don't know anything about site built single family homes or the single family market, A, you should not be buying mobile homes. B, you should not be buying 10 acres. And C, you should not be buying in Elmendorf, Texas. So all those three things kind of combined to really kind of create a funky situation. I don't know if you remember at the beginning, I said it took me 9 months to sell this property. Well, that's because nobody's buying in Elmendorf, Texas. Nobody's buying 10 acres. Nobody's buying a double wide mobile home. So, that was a hard lesson, wasting 9 months of my life trying to dispo that asset. I could have done 20 more deals if they would have been 3 bedrooms, 2 baths in, downtown Dallas. But, understanding the asset class, understanding the attractability was a big lesson, for me. The second lesson that I do like to share that just kind of happened to me is you do need to do your due diligence in regards to what are you getting yourself into. That's a mistake that I've made several times. I feel that I've got this like zeal that I can conquer the world and it doesn't matter what comes in my face, I will overcome it. Unfortunately, I have overcome them, so it doesn't help me. But I do realize that when you don't do sufficient due diligence in regards to the asset, in regards to the people that you're working with, and in regards to the nuances, what are the challenges in this area? For example, I can think of, would I be comfortable being together with 42 other people in a deal? Maybe the answer is yes, maybe the answer is no. It doesn't matter, but I need to be aware of those things. If I'm buying in Elmendorf, Texas, do I want to be there? Do I know how to dispo it? Do I know how to do it quick enough? If I can't do it quick enough, do I have the liquidity to handle and hold the asset during that time while it's vacant? So all of those little things, have been a learning curve. For me, also a learning has been the fact that I am an action taker, but I am not a task doer. So if your personality is like this, you got to write down your to-dos. I'm buying this property. What are the steps in my due diligence? What do I need to look at? Scratch them off. Make sure you do them. Make sure you understand them before you move forward. So for me, one of the biggest challenges is really just understanding my personality. What are my strong suits, but what are my challenges? And make sure that my challenges are somehow taken care of either by myself or someone else. That to me is a big learning curve.
And what makes you choose real estate over anything else? Because for us, life throws everything at you, right? So what makes you pick real estate comparing anything else? Let's just say stocks, right? So there's so many other things that you can invest. What is your thinking of staying in real estate and even preaching real estate and even getting investment in real estate?
Yeah, great question. So a couple things. One, I like control. I like to be able to control the outcome. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm not fully invested in multifamily, although I do understand the returns. In multifamily, I have to play with other people, and therefore I lose control. I love control. I love the ability to be able to take something and my changes, my adjustments, my input can change the results. I can't do that with stocks. I have zero control with stocks. I'm simply a passenger on a Titanic boat, and either we're going to make it to New York or we're going to sink, but I have no control over the outcome. That's one of the things that I don't like about the stock market. Something that I don't like about other asset vehicles that I really do like about real estate is, for example, I remember a video that I heard from Warren Buffett, and he's criticized a lot because he doesn't invest in gold, and he talks against gold a lot. And there was this one interview where they asked him straight up, and he says, all right, there's a lot of people who invest in gold. We know you don't. Why not? And he laughed a little, but what he said really resonated with me. He says, well, whenever I look at something, I like to think big. So let's think big on gold. Let's say that I were to be able to buy all of the gold in the world. It's estimated that right now there's about $3 trillion worth of gold sloshing in the markets in the world. So let's say I have $3 trillion and I buy all the gold in the world. And of course, I want to put it together. So I melt it and I'll have a pretty shiny cube. It's going to be about 60 feet tall by 60 feet wide by 60 feet deep. It'll be pretty. I can look at it, but at the end of the day, it won't do anything for me. It won't feed me. It won't protect me from the elements. I can't really do anything with it. So I'm going to have a shiny 60-foot cube and nothing else. Now, what could I do with those $3 trillion? What other things could I do with those $3 trillion? Well, I could buy all the available agricultural land in this country. And if I manage it well, I can go ahead and feed the world. And when I feed the world, I'm pretty sure that people are going to pay me good money for feeding them. So when it comes to asset classes, one of the things that I look at is it a needed commodity? Real estate is a needed commodity. Is it going to pay me every month? Real estate is going to pay me every month. Is it likely to appreciate? Historically, it is going to appreciate. Is it going to give me tax benefits? Absolutely, when it comes to real estate. And when it comes to real estate, we can even break it down. For example, you're into multifamily, I'm into single family. Why do I choose single family specifically? Because of the control factor. I have much more control over the outcome of that situation. So for me, real estate really ticks off all of those marks that stocks don't do it, cryptocurrency doesn't do it, gold doesn't do it, a lot of other commodities doesn't do it. I'm not saying it's not for other people. I'm just saying it doesn't do it for me.
Got it. So, like I know you have your own, coaching programs and things like that. So just share like some of the lessons that you try to teach to your students.
Yeah. So a couple of the things that I love teaching to students is identify your personality. If you're an action taker, slow down. Work on your due diligence. If you are an overlearner and over analyzer, stop and start taking action. So understanding your personality is probably the first step that I do with my students. And once you come to the realization of what your personality is, work on the opposite a little bit. Work on the opposite. If you need to be taking action, get on the phone with 100 sellers. If you need to take action, get on the streets and put 100 bandit signs. Now, if you're an action taker and you're not too much of a thinker, I go ahead and say, hey, why don't you analyze 100 properties? Don't even make offers on them, but just analyze them. So kind of analyzing what your weaknesses are to me is very important to create a balanced situation. Now, once you've understood yourself, there is no, I'm not a believer that if your personality is not inclined to do one thing, that you should force yourself to do it. You should focus on your strengths. However, you need to be aware of your deficiencies and hire them out. So if your deficiencies, for example, is action taking, hire closers, hire action takers, hire high energy people. If your deficiencies are checking off due diligence items, hire underwriters, hire into people who can analyze your database and give you metrics. So just kind of be aware of that. The other thing that I teach my students is this. I don't know if you know this, but have you seen the Olympics, how some of the skiers, they go down the mountain and it's just amazing how they like go and they miss the trees.
Yes.
And we've never heard of an Olympic competitant that hits a tree. And it's like, how do they do it? Well, I learned something interesting about how they train. And I think this can be applied to life. Instead of training themselves to think, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree, they train themselves to think, stay on the path, stay on the path, stay on the path.
Nice.
It's this subtle difference in training that makes all the difference in the world. Why is that so? Our brain is not created to register the negatives. I'm going to say that again. Our brain is not created to register the negatives. What do I mean by that? If you tell someone, don't think of an elephant, 9 out of 10 times the thought of an elephant, even though you told them, hey, you could think of anything else. You could think of a printer, a table, you could think of a city, you could think of an experience, you could think of nothing. All I told you was don't think of an elephant. But the brain does not compute the don't. All they compute is the elephant. So they go to an elephant. That's the reason why the Olympic trainers don't train, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree, because if they would hit the tree.
Yes.
Instead, they train themselves, stay on the path, stay on the path, stay on the path, so that their brain, all it does is it stays on the path. What's the application with my students? I tell them, listen, don't focus on the negatives. Don't focus on, don't screw it up. Don't mess up. Don't fail. Don't do this. Don't do that. Rather, just focus on stay on the path, follow the path, stay on the blueprint, follow the way, do your activities, take action, do your due diligence, and follow the blueprint. And if you focus and retrain your brain to think that way, you're likely to have much better results. I thought that was super cool. I love sharing that with people.
Yeah, no, that I think like this 2 minutes is a shiner of the show for sure. Like,
all of this for these 2 minutes.
Learn from it. I would say like, I'll definitely, this will be my takeaway from the show.
And I don't have children, but I imagine it applies to kids. You tell kids,
like
you have how many?
Like 1.5 year old.
So isn't it true with kids? If you tell them, don't eat that cookie, what are they going to do? Try to eat the cookie, because their brain doesn't compute the no. And it's not that they're rebellious or disobedient or they're, no, it's the brain does not register the don't. All they register is the cookie. You're going to have 10 times more results if you, instead of saying don't eat the cookie, you say, why don't you go play outside? Or why don't you go sit on the couch? Or why don't you do your homework? Refocusing their energy, it'll automatically, take them away from the cookie situation. I might come back to the cookie because it might taste good, but
So that I think that was a good learning lesson for sure. So like that's the beauty about everybody's life is, and that's why I started the show is I have my learning from my own experience, right? But at the same time, everybody is walking on their own travel, journey, and they will be the only person who will know that, oh, there was a stone, there was a big stone, or there was woods like on the way, or there was a nice hotel on the way I stayed, right? So those specific things is only that person knows, because he is the walking the trail, right? So I'm always interested to learn, the specific of it. Like, I don't care, if somebody is already worth $100 million, I want to know how you get there. That's more interesting than knowing that, oh, this person has $100 million.
Yeah, I agree. It's like, I don't care. I want to know how you got it so that maybe I can replicate some of it.
At least some learning lessons, and everybody has their own strength and weakness. If they learn from it, that's good. It's always good for you. If you learn from somebody, but it never means that you are going to replicate me or you just by watching me talking on subject or topic, right? So. Yeah. I think the mentality grows as you grow, down the road in a professional way. And I was just talking to some of my mentor, and like that is something that I want to transition. So just to give you like a
Mhm.
quick, so I had a
Please do.
discussion with my mentor. He's an asset manager, like wealth manager, owns like has $1.2 billion as an asset under management. So he's an older guy. I always talk to him. And one thing I'm still in a transition, which I'm not doing, is a public speaking, or
Mm.
uh, just throwing it out there what I did already. Like so one simple example, like specific one that we were discussing, was a deed structure. So like there's a lot of transaction happening in the real estate, but nobody is even cared to look at the deeds of the property.
Mm.
Like, so you own so many properties, how many deeds you looked at?
Yeah, that's a good question, because we don't normally look at the deeds until we are pretty deep in the due diligence.
Exactly.
So if I take a shot in the dark, that's a good question. But if I take a shot in the dark, probably no more than 800. I don't think so.
Yeah. So what I mean by that is,
And I
like,
definitely did not read all of them.
so the
I
point,
will say that.
yeah. So the point is, like, everybody's so focused on numbers. So even I was at some point, but one incident specifically happened to me, and that was really eye opener. And after that, I'm not even looking at the numbers first. I want to look at the deed first.
Really? Tell me more. I want to hear about that.
So, like, this was like, story in 2019. So this was like, I think, my third property we were buying in Dallas. It was 230 units, multifamily. We wanted to buy. So I had all the numbers. I was doing underwriting, and like numbers were looking great. We wanted to do value add, just a straightforward transaction. So along with the package of the property, the realtor sent me a deed paperwork, which I usually never get. What you get is called rent and financials. You never
Yeah.
get deed property, like deed. Like why you want to, like have a
Yeah.
deed document? You want to review it, right? So
Was this something you requested, or it just came in the packet from him?
he just added like in the package.
Okay, cool.
So what I was looking for is a T12 and rent growth. Like
Yeah.
that's like, because I'm a numbers guy, so I always like look at the numbers, and I want to fix the numbers. But when I was reviewing, I saw a deed paper. I was like, okay, what is this? And then I saw, okay, like this is actual deed paperwork for the land, and I reviewed it. So what happened was, like the property was sitting in a zoning where they allowed a daycare inside the property. So
Okay.
now here's the story. So we bought it 230 units, and typically, like you just want to paint it, you want to rebrush it, and
Yeah, yeah, make it pretty, rebranded maybe.
so this particular, and it was only one sentence in the deed, just hidden bottom, that the deed will allow to have a daycare on the property.
That's interesting situation. Okay.
So what we did was, there was a, like, every multifamily has a clubhouse, right? So
Yeah.
there was a barbecue space in the back. So we just extended the clubhouse 3,000 square feet more in the back. Just take out the barbecue area and like put it somewhere else. And now we are leasing that daycare at $10,000 a month.
Oh, so time out. So that clause that you discovered on the deed turned out to be a very good thing for you. It
Yes.
did not, it was not like a bad thing.
Yeah, it was very.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
So along with like pushing rents up and doing some like carports, those are the typical things people do. Is like, they put some carports, start charging $50, or they will
Yeah.
increase the rent by $50. But this was $10,000 a month income just by doing that. So now what happened was, everybody loved it, because now we have a daycare inside the property, so they don't have to drive and spare that 30
Yeah.
extra for the daily commute. Because, like, if you have to get to work at 9 o'clock and drop your
That's
kid,
a big value add.
people were almost waking up at 5 o'clock. So now they can drop, like, the kids are inside, like inside the property. So it's safe, and they can just pick up, and they're like on their way home, right? So it really worked out well, and plus we ended up making 200,000 a year cash flow.
So did the previous owner, was he aware that that even existed?
Nobody did, like
He
nobody.
never read the
Property
deed.
was done 6 times transaction before we bought it.
Wow, that's an awesome story. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in site-built single-family homes, I can tell you, because you're a numbers guy, but I'm a letters guy. I love reading, and for the most part, deeds for site-built single-family homes, they're pretty copy and paste. They're not, they aren't drafted originally each time. Now, it has happened a couple of times where there is a restriction on the deed that nobody's really been aware of, but could potentially kind of hinder the situation. One of the examples that I can think of is we bought a property that had 10 to 25 acre parcels. It was out in the country. So it was like 10 to 25 acre parcels. People want to live in the country, but it still provided a subdivision-ish, situation. There was a nice main road. It was gated, nice, community. It had its clubhouse, its gym, its tennis courts. So it was in an HOA, but each lot was 10 to 25 acres. Well, everyone had horses. And that was one of the big pluses. But when I read the deed, it actually prohibited personal horses. That was kind of the thing. So we asked our attorneys, it's like, what does this mean? And what it basically meant is, if you're going to have a horse for your own personal one or two, it was one per adult, then you couldn't have them. If you were going to board horses because you were going to somehow use them for commercial purposes, then you could use them. And nobody in the community had kind of paid attention. And thankfully, it was just one of those situations where I kind of brought it to the HOA's attention. And they're like, we have no idea where this came from. But obviously we need to change it because everyone has horses. That's the reason people come here. So it was just one of those weird situations that it could have potentially, been an issue if we hadn't, picked up on it, and our buyers wanted just one or two horses. And, there's always an old lady wanting to throw a fit somewhere. Yeah. And it's interesting. I love that story, man, about your daycare.
This was so I was talking to this story to my mentor, right? And that's where he opened up my eyes. Like, it's like, why are you not telling to other people? I was like, this is something like happened to me, and like, I still want to refine it before I tell it. He said, no, you need to start putting it out. Like, this is a great story. So I was like, okay, but I'm still kind of a reserved person, like I don't want to talk too much. I want to do too much. I want to like talk less and do too much. That kind of person. I don't want to talk too much and do less, right? So I said, like, I'm still like have to like fight with my own personality to be outspoken and put out a lot of content on that. And the another story that happened, and that then we just went to like a couple of examples.
Yeah.
So this basically more or less applies in multifamily commercial space more than a single family. In single family, it's like if you want to find out the fine print of HOA, right? Because a lot of times that's where the trick is. Like if you are planning to own a single family, right? But so there was this second example that we were discussing. So, and this didn't happen to me. This was a common friend who always buy like a dollar store. So like real estate property of a dollar store, he always go after that. So it's not like, if you look at the numbers, it's not that attractive. Like he buys at like 4 cap and sell it at 5 cap, and it's not like pretty attractive. But
yeah, not too much.
That's his niche. He likes it. Like
riches are in the niches. I mean, that's his thing. He knows it.
Dollar, because it's stable, like nothing will happen to dollar stores. Like whether economy goes up, down, sideways, doesn't matter.
That's true.
that's his theory that dollar stores. So he was planning to buy this dollar store somewhere in Texas, and he's already pro buying it. So it's like, okay, like why do you want to talk to us? We know you already know more than us. So there, I don't see like there is much to be implemented from our side, but we can still talk and see what you're doing, right? So it's like, okay, like send me a Google address and let's talk in the evening. So I looked up the address and there was a next door property empty. Like he had a lot next door to the property. He was still
That
under.
doesn't surprise me. There's a lot of dollar stores that are kind of the outskirts.
Yes, exactly. Though that was a typical property, that a dollar store with a next door empty property, right? And so far he's only buying it like a dollar store. He's not even worried about the next door property. I don't care, kind of thing. So when I looked at the address in Google Map, and I was like, okay, I was just more curious into like unintentionally. I was like, next door property, like why it's empty and what's happening. So what I found out from the deed again is they have an easement on that property. So all the traffic rights has to go from his dollar store
to that vacant
property. The vacant land. So yep, and that was
wow.
the deed. So for that reason alone, whosoever buys the dollar store technically has upper hand on the next door property.
Yeah.
Right? And the owner of that lot was aware of it, but nobody else was, aware of that one. And he was just sitting for that reason that, okay, if I can have the, right of control, I don't want to build anything.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So then I in the evening, I called him up. We were just talking and I showed him what I noticed. I was like, okay, this is what I noticed. And,
how do you feel about this?
Yeah. Because I think if technically deed says that you control the rights. So whatever is going to happen, what you say, this guy cannot do anything, even though he owns the land, So.
And was it completely landlocked? Like if the dollar store land said no?
Yep, 2-acre land lot. That's it. Nothing else.
I say we increase the value and put a toll booth. I'm just kidding.
So what we did was, okay, buy that one too. Like if you're buying this, don't tell me if you're not buying that one. If I wouldn't even go for that. So it's like, okay. Then we went to the seller. He was asking like 300,000 because it's in outskirts. It's not like in city. So we bought it for $300,000 and we put a retail on it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
25 to 300,000 square feet each of 7 retail stores. It costs around $2 million total to build and, but now the combined property is worth $10 million.
Nice. Are you all planning on selling it together now as a together asset, or keeping it?
It's a cash flow property, not like we already.
Very nice.
It property is paying itself, doesn't hurt. But in the close to $4 million investment, now he's sitting on a $10 million property.
Nice. I love stories like that.
So, and plus the cash flow.
Yeah. Very nice. So that's you piqued my interest. I'm going to start reading deeds more. I shouldn't do, because I love reading anyway. So you should have not told me that. Now I'm going to even read more deeds.
Right. I think we're the time is up, but
sure.
I have 4 people joined in. Liera and Nevis. Do you guys have any questions for Dan? If you do, we'll take it a few minutes and then we can wrap it up.
Hi, this is Leda. I just wanted to know, how do you go about finding your properties? I used to live I'm from Texas. I'm from El Paso, but I've lived in Dallas and I have family in San Antonio. So I'm looking to buy either San Antonio or Austin because my daughter wants to go to college there. So I'm looking for properties in those areas.
Yeah. So my approach is very non-conventional. And I say that unconventional is because most investors will tell you something along the lines of look for a distressed list, skip trace the owners, give them a call, blah, blah, blah. That's not my approach. Rather, I build relationships with real estate agents. And the reason I prefer that approach is because my experience is that when someone is in the mental state that they are going to want to sell, so they have that inclination, they're always going to talk to an agent first. Now, my goal is to be in the back pocket of those agents, because most of the time, if the property is distressed or the loan is distressed or the seller is distressed, the agents might not know what to do with it. So I present myself as a valuable resource and as a member of their power team that they need to keep me in their back pocket so that when they get this opportunity, they'll know exactly how to capitalize on it. So that's kind of my approach. There's 190,000 active licenses in Texas. Out of those, there's about 45 to 50,000 licenses that have done a minimum of one transaction in the last 12 months. That's what I really call active. Not that your license is active, but that you're actually active in the business. So if you're looking to look for a target area, I would look for the agents who are active in that area, build relationships with them. The numbers are fairly simple. For every deal, you need to have a built-in relationship with approximately 750 agents. So if you're wanting to do, for example, 12 deals in the next 12 months, you probably need to be looking at about 9,000 agents that you're going to be wanting to build relationships with. Now, you're probably thinking, wow, I can't build relationships with 9,000 people. It's drip marketing. It's just a phone call, introducing yourself, your team, what you're about, and put them on a drip marketing campaign. Let them know that you're going to want to stay in contact. And all you want to do is to be in their back pocket and in their power team so that when these leads come in, they know how to capitalize on them properly. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Is anybody else has any questions?
Nieves is, she's my assistant, so I asked her to log in. So she's with me. She's on the other room.
That's perfect. So let's catch up. I just want to learn from you about some digital marketing. Still trying to refine myself, some automation. I still use Active Campaign and things like that. But I'd be happy to pick up some of your brain and see if I can, learn a few things which I can implement.
So you're probably not going to like my answer. And the reason I'm going to say that is systems is not my strong suit. Okay. Relationships and relationship building is. And I wish I could say that I have an automated system that allows me to build relationships. It really doesn't. That's actually one of my personal challenges. Recently, we started looking into launch control. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but launch control is a pretty advanced, pretty high-tech approach to mass texting. And the reason I like texting, again, I don't know if you heard with Leda, I don't know if that pronounced it correctly, but all 98% of our leads come from real estate agents, whether they are buyers needing an owner finance loan or whether they are sellers looking to sell. So agents normally have good numbers. And normally they'll receive text messages. So text messaging works for us, but we've been looking into launch control because it's got a lot of iterations and it's got a lot of automations that can kind of make that happen. Something that I do with them also is on a monthly basis, I do webinars where I invite them to get to learn a little bit about me and a little bit how I can help them. It's very lukewarm marketing. I mean, it's not aggressive. It's just constant. And that's really, what I'm about when it comes to relationship building. So I don't know if that's what you wanted to hear or not, but that's kind of what we do.
At least I good to know your strategy, right? And I'm doing more or less same thing.
Do you use launch control?
No.
No.
So far, the major platform that I use is Active Campaign. But my personal.
But that's for emails, isn't it?
Yeah, emails or even texting. You can still do.
Oh, okay. But Active Campaign, you can't really. So launch control is very good to start the cold process
I understand.
because of the many iterations. Once we've created, a relationship, then we can move them to a different platform. We like REI Reply. REI Reply kind of works well, but you need to have some sort of relationship built already.
Yeah, so like same thing, REI Reply or high level. So
High level, yeah, that's the same platform.
like like cross feeding kind of thing, like just like act at Twilio. I'm not big on texting yet. Mostly do email marketing, but definitely this. So far, it's all personal relationship. Like people see me on Facebook and people know me, or I try to meet people, especially like wealth fund managers, office fund managers, things like that.
Have you made any contacts with family office
Yeah,
managers?
like, Richard, do you know Richard?
What's his last name? I want to say yes, Richard.
It's a very generic name.
Yeah, Richard. I think I do know his name. Was he at? Do you know Tim Mai?
Yes.
Were you at the conference? Yeah, that's where we met, right?
Yeah.
Did we meet each other at the conference?
No, I wasn't at the conference, but I saw like, like we were just talking to a friend and like, your name came in. But yeah, Richard was one of the speaker over there.
Yeah, I think I met him there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so something that my wife and I do, but again, it's a selfish approach, but we take a business approach to date night. And we do, we could go to Sawgrass or Chili's, but we purposefully choose not to. So every once in a while, we'll go to a high-end steakhouse. We sit at the bar, we get an appetizer, but before we leave, our goal is to leave with each of us 2 contacts from people that are sitting next to us. And it's just shaking hands, kissing babies, making friends. That's the spirit of life. So we do that often as well. So that works out.
Yeah, I try to be mostly like the back end guy. Like the way I do is like I don't want to be boots on the ground. I did it for but I try to reserve myself finding deals, finding money. So those are the 2 things I try to be good at and I try to bring on the table. And mistakes. So now I usually work with like 4 or 5 people max that has complementing qualities and has some proven track records, and then we just go after a property and knock it out.
Yeah, that's interesting. Have you ever done any capital raising dinners?
Not yet. So
yeah, before COVID, we did a couple. And then COVID happened. And it was expensive, but it was fun. So I'm a big foodie and I love wine. So if I can do anything that involves both of them, I'll even do it as a loss. So we did a couple of capital raising dinners and I think we did 2, but then COVID happened and we haven't done them again.
One thing I want to do is a virtual summit where like there are a lot of multifamily summits happening, right? But nobody's talking about alternative class of assets like node buying or what you're doing, or even like RV parks, self-storage, hotels, motels, conversions, and like even like experience-based resorts. So those are the things I'm looking at right now. I'm actively learning, and I met a couple of guys who are already doing it. Be even a good level. So just want to assemble a team where everybody will get like an hour or 2 and try to introduce different asset class apart from multifamily.
Let me know if I can help in any way.
Sure. For
sure would be part of it.
Yep. I know you have a busy day ahead, but yeah, I think that's a good talk. Well, nice meeting you finally.
I know. I think we had a little bit of a rough start in the morning. I'm not normally so I am a morning person, but I'm not a morning person for work. Usually I arrive at the office closer to 12. But I think we had a really good time, and I think we shared some really nice value. Would you do me a favor, if it's possible? I know that you recorded. Mind sending the recording over so that we can push it to our channel? Is that okay?
Yep. So like, I'll just, like my VA is gonna do all the, prep, and then like it will be uploaded to my YouTube channel, and I'll just
Okay.
send you the link and you guys can download it.
Sounds good. Awesome. Hey, I appreciate it. Well, thank you so much. It was great meeting you. Now, I know your initials are VJ, but
Yes.
what is your full name?
VIJAY.
How do you pronounce it?
VJ.
Oh, VJ. Okay. Easy enough.
Yeah.
I don't like butchering names, so I always ask.
So like how I translated was like, my name is VIJAY, but every time I call it, the person in front is just going to call VJ, right? So then I said, like, okay, let's just make it simple. I don't have to spell it. I'll just get VJ.
Yeah. Phonetics works well.
Right,
Awesome. Well, nice meeting you. Nice seeing you. And I hope you have a great day. Take care, VJ. Thank you. Bye-bye.